Those men were here too. The Australians came here in March 1917 and took over the regiments and those from the north, including some of those iconic sort of parades. So today we will remember all of those soldiers that spent their time here, and thank you all for coming. I will now hand over to Lieutenant Colonel Fabian Harrison.
Thanks, Alan. Good morning. My name is Fabian Harrison. I'm a Lieutenant Colonel in the Australian Army, currently based here in the UK, and I'm delighted to offer this Anzac Day address here in Wiltshire. So Anzac Day commemorates the landing of the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps on the Gallipoli Peninsula on the 25th of April 1915. And on the same day, the daring passage of the Australian Navy submarine, the Alpha Echo 2, into the Dardanelles. Landing at Anzac Cove formed part of the broader amphibious invasion of Gallipoli by the forces of the British Empire and marked the beginning of the land phase of the Gallipoli campaign in World War I. In the early hours before dawn, the assault troops, mostly Australian and New Zealanders, came ashore on the western Aegean Sea side of the peninsula. In darkness and confusion, the landing formations became mixed. Despite this, the soldiers pressed on, and under increasing opposition of the Ottoman defenders. Not long after the landing, the original plans for the campaign were abandoned. Companies and battalions were committed to battle piecemeal, receiving mixed and sometimes contradictory orders. Some advanced towards their intended objectives, while others were redirected to different areas in order to dig in along defensive positions on ridgelines. And so began the tragic campaign that cost the Allies dearly, but played an important role in the Allied struggle against the Axis powers. By December of that year, 1915, after suffering more than 33,000 Anzac casualties, including over 11,000 killed, the Australian and New Zealand troops were evacuated from Gallipoli, and their efforts were redirected to the Western Front, where they went on to make decisive contributions in places like the Somme, Fromelles and Villers-Bretonneux. And it was this time, following the Gallipoli campaign, that Australia's military connection to Britain deepened. Purdock Camp, located here in Wiltshire, played a significant and yet often overlooked role during the First World War. Established in 1916, it accommodated troops arriving from across the British Empire for the war on the Western Front. For the Australian Imperial Force, Purdock served as a key staging and recovery camp. Australian soldiers were sent here for training, reorganisation and recuperation, particularly those recovering from wounds or illness sustained in the battles of France and Belgium. It was also a holding camp for troops awaiting redeployment and return to Australia, including after the war. Life at Purdock reflected its temporary nature. Conditions were basic, with rows of wooden huts, parade grounds and medical facilities. Yet for many Australians it provided a rare respite from the trenches. Local communities came in frequent contact with the Australian soldiers, who were often remembered for their informality, humour and popularity with the civilians. Purdock remained in use until the end of the war in 1918 and briefly during post-war demobilisation. Though little of the camp remains today, the chalk map that we stand on stands as a reminder of Australia's deep connection with southern England and the many thousands of Australians who passed through Wiltshire on their journey to and from the battlefields in Europe. Today, on Anzac Day, we honour not only those who landed at Gallipoli, but all Australian and New Zealand servicemen and women, past and present, who have served and sacrificed in conflict since. And we also remember our allies who have stood beside us in times of war. Lest we forget.
Thank you, Fabian. We're now going to have some readings carried out by personnel from the Australian Defence Force, who actually came and helped us do an awful lot of work here on the chalk map yesterday. So you can see it's looking really amazing. And they, with wheelbarrows and shovels, put literally a whole trailer load of chalk onto the map in advance of today. So a huge thank you to them, and I'll hand over to you.
Reading 1, landing at Anzac Cove. George Ascot Gideon was a 23-year-old involved in the first landings at Gallipoli on the 25th of April 1915. From a hospital in Malta, June 21st, Private George Gideon, in a letter to his relatives, wrote,
God bless. I am sending you a brief outline of operations. You always knew me as one of not taking things seriously. Well, the time has changed some. I've been through hell proper, and I ask you to prepare for anything but the best. Well, after our long wait in Egypt, we arrived at Gallipoli on the 25th of April. And shells were landing all around our ships. We got rather anxious to get off and at them, but systems had to take its course, and we had to settle down to patience. At last, a string of our ships, boats, were alongside. We got in, and away we went for the shores, where the rifles flash plentiful. We passed an upturned boat and knew what that meant for the poor fellows who had occupied it. Considering the heavy equipment each had strapped on it. Once in the water, that was the end. Our boys set their teeth, and each murmured something to himself. Nothing was said till our boat brought us to the beach. And out we jumped, waist deep, with fixed bayonets, and the water did not lighten our loads. Up the slope we went, calling the Turks all sorts of nice names. The further we went, the wilder we got. For now we were passing our own lads lying dead or wounded. A wounded chap would sit up, his face covered with blood. He called out, "Go on, lads, give it to them." Nervousness had by this time fled, one and all. On and on we went till we got over the three big ridges. Then, all of a sudden, we got it proper, from shrapnel and machine gun. Didn't we cop it? I never want to witness that scene again. I was with two other chaps, unknown to me, but we were all separated in our excitement. One was killed on the spot, and the other was badly wounded. I patched the latter up, and well as I could, took him to the bottom of the hill to a dressing station. Up I went again. We were getting it hot at last, and there were now only 6 of us left on this little ridge. On our left, our main body were retreating. Seeing us, they called out, "Break to the next ridge, boys." We got to the ridge, and it was a case of hold on to it or be driven back into the sea. Some dug, while others poured in the lead. With occasional bayonet rushes to drive them back, the cries were awful, especially from those in the front of us, who were too weak to get back. Some brave attempts were made to get them. Some did, but many didn't finish the job. We later learnt that of our 32 officers, only 6 were left on the field.
We're going to now lay some reeds.
Forward. Good job, I was going to start. So come over here, boys. Come stand next to me here. Thank you. Well done.
Thank you. We will now continue the story of Private George Gideon.
Reading 2, landing at Cape Helles. Private George Gideon survived the initial landing at Gallipoli, and in his letter home he recounts the next 10 days of battle, involving heavy gun and artillery fire, with raids involving hand-to-hand fighting. On the 6th of May, the battalion set sail to Cape Helles, where the English and French were operating. He wrote,
"We got a great welcome from both the Tommies and the Frogs. We dug in and slept. This is a very different country, quite civilised compared to the place we had left, which is very much like our Australian bush."
And on the 8th of May, Private Gideon recounts.
"Today saw us in it. We charged over 3 lines of Tommy's trenches, singing Tipperary. Of course, it was only a bit of a grandstand. The Tommies would stare and say, 'Well, you're a cool lot of lads.' Then we got into the last trench for a rest. Running with your pack up isn't like sprinting on the football ground. When we got our wind, the word was given, 'Come on, Australia.' Up we got and charged, our yells putting fear into the Turks. They wondered what had been let loose on them. But when we got about 300 yards from their trenches, it was proper hell. Their fire was like a dust storm. It is marvellous how they missed. Now, how they hit. Our poor lads suffered very heavily, and it was here I got my lot. I thought I had hit a stick and didn't tumble to it being a bullet, so I'd ran about another 50 yards. But I soon woke up and found I was hit about 6 inches above the ankle. It grazed my shin bone and came out about 6 inches from where it went in. I left my rifle and my pack and started back. The dead and wounded were lying around everywhere. I came across our poor Major Wells. He had a hole through the upper part of his left leg and was bleeding very freely. He said,
"Hello, Gideon. You got one too?"
I got close to him, cut his trousers away, and started to bandage him. It was a nasty wound, and the brave old Major was suffering a great pain. It was awful to see this fine man weakening. Another battalion was advancing to support our chaps, and we were right between their fire and that of the Turks. I advised the Major that we should lie flat till they passed on, which we did. The fire at last eased off. I said, "Well, we'll get to work again." I looked at him. He was bleeding from the mouth. He had been shot through the back of the head, near the neck. He said,
"Don't worry about me, boy. Get to safety yourself. Take my money belt. There is £5 in it belonging to the company."
I saw that his wounds were too much for me, so I shook his hand. He said,
"Thanks, lad. Look after yourself."
I got down the gully and directed the stretcher bearers to him. Another lad and I got further down to the dressing station and got our wounds dressed. And the next morning, I was on a hospital ship, Premier Castle, and we landed at Malta on the 17th of May. Waiting for us was a band of English ladies. More homely faces never appealed to me before. They treated us to lemon squash, chocolate and cigarettes, and put flowers in our hats and coats. And those ladies still call on us twice a week with cigarettes and pipes, tobacco and matches. I learned on the boat that our poor Major had died from his wounds. It's worthwhile being a wounded warrior, as they call us, but I'm quite willing to go back to the lines again as soon as they ask me.
Major Richard William Wells, aged 37, died at sea on 11th May 1915. Cause of death was gunshot wound to the throat. He is buried at the Lancaster Landing Cemetery, Cape Helles, Turkey. Reading 3, Recovery in England. After nearly 18 months recuperating in Malta and then in England, Private Gideon proceeded overseas in September 1916, this time to France, joining the 59th Battalion as much needed reinforcements. He spent the winter of 1916 and 17 in and out of the trenches in the Somme region. On the 24th of March 1917, he was wounded in action, sustaining a gunshot wound to his chest, listed as penetrating severe. After 3 weeks in hospitals in France, he was sent back to England, where he spent 37 days in No. 1 Auxiliary Hospital. After time on furlough, Private Gideon reported to No. 2 Command Depot, Weymouth, and on the 29th of June arrived at No. 3 Command Depot, Herdcott. It appears from his medical records that efforts were made to get Private Gideon fit again for return to the front line, but it was noted that he complained of loss of breath and pain on the right side on exertion, and breath sounds marked on the right side compared with the left. The archives hold a poignant letter written on the 3rd of July 1917 by a relative in London, addressed to the adjutant of No. 5 Camp Herdcott.
Dear Sir, I must ask you to excuse my writing to you about a young cousin of mine, Private G.A. Gideon, number 311, 59th Infantry Battalion, is now at No. 5 Camp, Herdcott, Salisbury Plain. He is home wounded for the 3rd time, his time with a penetrating wound of the chest, the bullet still being in the lung. He was staying with me on furlough 3 weeks ago, and as a medical man, I was struck with the fact that he was constantly in pain as regards his chest, and the slightest exertion produced shortness of breath and faintness. He went back to Weymouth, and shortly afterward I was surprised to hear he was marked fit for active service. As a medical man, I'm convinced that with those conditions he is not fit for any hard training or active service. On top of all this, I get a letter from him saying that he had suddenly been drafted up to No. 5 Camp Herdcott. I should like you quite to understand that the lad is no way grumbles, nor is he shirker in the slightest degree. But as a relative and a medical man, I cannot help feeling that the whole procedure is extremely unsatisfactory. Might I, as a favour, ask you to keep your eye on the lad and see what is requisite and necessary is done for him. I know you must be extremely busy, but if you could let me know how he's going on, I should feel extremely obliged. I enclose a stamped addressed envelope. Yours truly, Vernon Gideon.
The day after the letter was received, George Gideon was transferred to the Fauvant Military Hospital for X-ray and report. However, on 1st of August, a medical officer noted, "I've examined the man carefully and can find no sign in his chest. I think he is quite fit now for hardening." Private Gideon was then sent to the Overseas Training Brigade at Perham Downs, but his medical records state, "Since coming to the Overseas Training Brigade, cannot stand marching or training, has pain below left shoulder, gets exhausted readily." On October 17, George Gideon was marked temporarily unfit for all services for 6 months and was then returned to Australia, sailing from Devonport on the 31st of October 1917. George Gideon married and had children and died aged 78 in 1968. He is buried in Springvale, Victoria.
Thank you.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Thank you. That concludes our service today. Everyone is very welcome to Compton Chamberlayne Village Hall, which is just down in the valley. So if you see the signs to Compton Chamberlayne off the A30, turn into the village. If you can, it's a narrow little village, so if you can try and park near where the Commonwealth Grave Cemetery is and the telephone box along that road, and then carry on walking just about another 100 yards, and you'll see a little white finger post signed to the village hall, and there is light refreshments, sandwiches, lots of cake, tea, coffees, and you'd all be very welcome to come back there.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, Helen, thank you very much for your attendance and everyone's support today. It's our great honour as current serving members to represent, but more broadly, just want to pass on my thanks on behalf of veterans and those families in Australia for everything you do, Helen, and trust to keep this work alive. So thank you.